Bhaja Govindam, verse 8. Question: Who am I? Kate kanta kaste putrah samsaro yamativa vichitrah kasya tvam kah kuta ayatah tatvam chintaya tadiha bhratah Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Mudhamate. Who is your wife? Who is your son? Very wonderful indeed is this samsara. Who are you? From where have you come? O brother, reflect on that truth here. Seek Govinda, O foolish mind. Let's listen to a story based on this verse. There was a man who had 4 wives. He loved the 4th one very dearly. He would get her the nicest dress and jewelry and entertain her all the time. She loved him and he loved her. He also loved the 3rd wife. The 3rd wife was also dear to him and he would give her everything. She was the one who controlled everything in his life. He loved the 2nd wife as well and was confident of her. She was the one to whom he would discuss all his personal matters. He would always talk to his 2nd wife about life. His 1st wife was there, though he wasn't too attached to her. She was always there, modest, and trying her best to make her presence felt. One day, the man fell ill and he was on his deathbed. All his wives gathered around him and he said, "Now look, my beautiful wives, I don't want to die alone. Which one of you will come with me?" He called his 4th wife and said, "You are the dearest to my heart. I have always loved you. I have given you the best of all. Now the time has come for me to die. Will you come with me? Would you come with me?" The wife said, "No," and turned back and went her way. His heart was broken into pieces. Sadly, he called his 3rd wife to the front and said, "I am going to die. Will you come with me?" To that she said, "No way. The moment you die, I am going with somebody else." She turned her back and went away. He called his 2nd wife and asked her the same question. She said, "I am sorry that you are dying, but I can come up only to your cemetery. I will be with you until there," and turned back to stand in her place. From behind, he heard a voice, "I will come with you." And he looked at his 1st wife and felt sad. He said, "My dear, I have always neglected you. You look so skinny. Now my life has come to an end. I wish I knew you loved me more than anybody when I was healthy. I feel very sad I neglected you all this time." And he died. In the story, the 4th wife represents the body and its craving, which we lose when we die. The 3rd wife represents wealth, which others get after one leaves the body. The 2nd wife represents all the friends and family who can come up only to the grave. The 1st wife represents the soul. It is always there, but unnoticed. The dearest and important one is ignored, and one often realizes it only at the end of life. The scriptures say, "Jantunam narajanma durlabham." It is only after great and good merits done in many past lives one gets chance to be born as a human. Human being is the only creation of the Lord who has the capacity to realize and attain the Lord. But being born as humans, we get entrapped in attachments, sorrows, and joys, which we think are real. Upon self-inquiry, contemplation, and learnings from the great masters, one understands that these worldly existences are all a grand delusion. These are unreal and temporary. The only reality is that we are not this body. we are the Brahman or the Supreme Self. Great masters and jnanis have realized this truth. Hindu scriptures often use the lotus flower and its leaf as metaphors. The plant, though thriving in water, its leaf never gets wet. This symbolizes the nature of a jnani or a realized person who is ever blissful, untouched by the sorrows and the changes which is characteristic of the world. It is not easy to realize this. It is a long process. Each one of us may take many births to understand. But once we at least know about this, we can begin the process of self-inquiry by taking baby steps towards it. Each of us are in different levels of spiritual journey, and ultimately we will reach that goal. A wise seeker will take this opportunity of learning from his master or the scriptures and progress towards this path of self-inquiry rather than being pulled in the mire of delusion and attachment. Now, a story for the students. There is a story about a man who, as he was passing by some elephants, suddenly stopped, confused by the fact that these huge creatures were being held by only a small rope tied to their front leg. No chains, no cages. It was obvious that the elephants could at any time break away from their bonds, but for some reason they did not. He saw a trainer nearby and asked why these animals just stood there and made no attempt to get away. Well, the trainer said, when they are very young and much smaller, we use the same size rope to tie them, and at that age, it's enough to hold them. As they grow up, they are conditioned to believe they cannot break away. They believe the rope can still hold them, so they never try to break free. The man was amazed. These animals could at any time break free from their bonds, but because they believed they couldn't, they were stuck right where they were. Like the elephants, how many of us go through life hanging on to a belief that we cannot do something simply because we failed at it once before? Many of us can relate to this story and the feeling of having failed at something or another over the years. Over time, we begin to think that we are not capable of doing a particular thing, and we accept this as the truth and limit ourselves to a very confined world. If we could look at all the so-called failures in our lives just as stepping stones along our path and decide to respond in a way that is positive, treat it like a process of elimination, gathering momentum, and staying focused on what we would like to achieve, we will definitely succeed. Let us not limit ourselves to a small world. Let us break free of our mental boundaries and expand out into this magnificent kingdom that we live in. We can do anything we set our heart on if we just believe it. Another learning from this is to free ourselves from something that ties us down. These are binding us and restricting our freedom. We begin to think that it is be all and end all. Effort has to be put to detach ourselves with things that bind us. When we put that effort to free ourselves, we will find real freedom, happiness, and peace within. Education plays an important role in a student's life. That includes gaining knowledge from the secular education, other extracurricular activities, and developing life skills. Along with this, value-based education is also very important. This will help them develop a whole-rounded personality, which is necessary to live a happy and peaceful life. It is good for children to compete, have a goal, and achieve it. What is in our hands is only to do the action. The results are not in our control. One must never let go of the aim or goal by getting distracted by fear, by procrastination, by laziness and such. All these things which bind us and take us away from our goal, for example, distraction by addiction to social media, procrastination due to laziness. These give a feeling of comfort to us, and we get attached or dependent on these and lose our focus. From a younger age, when we start realizing this and works towards it, it will be easier when we grow up to slowly detach ourselves from things that bind us, and we can focus on that which will help us achieve our goals. Let us remember that we are the all powerful Brahman and we can achieve whatever we want when we know and believe in this truth. Jai Sai Ram.